Today is Friday, July 2nd. We'll tell you about the tax fraud case against the Trump Organization and what the former president is now saying about it. Also, a historic settlement between the Boy Scouts and survivors of sexual abuse, and a tropical storm brewing in the Caribbean. Plus, how 4th of July travelers are setting records, a change you might start noticing on TikTok videos, and keep an eye out for flying cars. One prototype just marked a big milestone this week. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in about 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Lacey Evans, filling in for Erica Mandy during her maternity leave. You ready? Let's do this. Former President Trump's real estate business is being accused of running a tax fraud scheme. Prosecutors explained it all in court after filing criminal charges against the Trump Organization and its finance chief, Allen Weisselberg. They say for 15 years, Trump Organization employees have been getting off-the-books payments. They say executives took perks like rent and furnishings for their Manhattan apartments, leases on Mercedes-Benz cars, and private school tuition for their family members without anyone paying taxes on them. Specifically, it says Weisselberg alone has illegally avoided paying taxes on nearly $1.8 million in benefits. Weisselberg, though, pleaded not guilty. The Trump Organization, through its attorneys, also pleaded not guilty. To be clear, the former president wasn't himself charged with the crime. Still, Trump told the New York Times the accusations are all political, and he called Weisselberg an honorable man. The most serious charge against Weisselberg is felony grand larceny, and if he's found guilty of that, he could spend up to 15 years in prison. Many legal analysts say it's possible prosecutors could try to strike a deal with Weisselberg, giving him a lesser sentence if he were to cooperate in a larger investigation. Investigators are still looking into possible bank, tax, and insurance fraud within the Trump Organization. And for now, that investigation continues. Some new voting restrictions were put to the test at the U.S. Supreme Court, and they survived. The case was specifically over two rules in Arizona. One says any votes cast at the wrong precincts are invalid. The other makes it illegal for people to collect and return other people's ballots. Arizona Republicans who passed those rules say they were meant to weed out any election fraud. However, the Democratic National Committee sued over them, saying they hurt minority voters in Arizona the most. Well, this week, 6 out of the 9 justices said those restrictions didn't amount to racial discrimination. So for now, they stand. And this ruling could complicate other legal challenges that target new election rules in other states. That's because, in theory, those states could now be able to defend their new laws by saying they are similar to the ones approved by the Supreme Court. To be continued. Tens of thousands of sexual abuse survivors are about to get some compensation from the Boy Scouts. The scouting organization reached an $850 million agreement with the attorneys for about 60,000 victims. As NBC News reports, this is the largest settlement in a child sex abuse case in U.S. history. Originally, the Boy Scouts filed for bankruptcy last year because they were facing hundreds of lawsuits. But since then, lawyers across the country have been signing up tens of thousands of now adult men who have come forward with their stories. Most of them say they were abused back in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s when they were underage. It's worth noting the organization has made some changes since then. The Boy Scouts adopted criminal background checks, abuse prevention training for staff and volunteers, and a rule that 2 or more adult leaders must be present during activities, not just one. The organization says now that the settlement has been reached, it will be able to emerge out of bankruptcy later this year as long as a judge signs off. There are more difficult days, weeks, and months ahead in Surfside, Florida, where a condo complex partially collapsed last week. So far, 18 people have been confirmed dead, including children, mothers, fathers, immigrants, artists, students, and more. 145 others are still missing. President Biden, along with Governor DeSantis, met with those victims' families yesterday. Biden mentioned that the family members know, as each day goes by, there's less chance of their loved ones being found alive. But at the very minimum, they want their bodies found so they can get some closure and bury them. The president and first lady also met with first responders to thank them for their work. Investigators are still looking into what caused the collapse, but already the city of Surfside told the owners of other oceanfront buildings to hire engineers to analyze their properties so no one else is potentially at risk. From coast to coast, Americans are facing unprecedented weather threats, from heat to fires to a tropical storm. First, millions of people are still under heat alerts, mostly across the Northwest and Northern Rockies. Temperatures are still 10 to 20 degrees above average, which means triple digits. And this brutal heat is sticking around through Sunday at least in places like Spokane, Washington, Boise, Idaho, and Missoula, Montana. The extreme temperatures are making wildfires even worse. There are now dozens of fires burning in states like California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Oregon. In Northern California alone, thousands of people have had to evacuate from 3 large fires. In Canada, officials say 90% of one village was burned in a wildfire. It's the same village that got up to 121 degrees this week. That was the highest temperature ever recorded in the history of Canada. Separately, meteorologists are tracking a tropical storm that could be headed for the U.S. by early next week. Tropical storm Elsa is expected to barrel into the Caribbean today, bringing strong winds and heavy rain to several countries like Jamaica, the Dominican Republic, and Haiti. Then, it's possible the storm moves into Florida in a few days. However, meteorologists are careful to point out a lot could change between now and then, so it's too soon to know how much Florida might be affected, if at all. Stay tuned. More news is just ahead, but first, here's your main host, Erica Mandy, with a word about today's sponsor, BetterHelp.
If there is anything that stops you from being your best and happiest self, why not fix that? It's sometimes tough for us to recognize on our own what might be holding us back, but a professional can help you identify it and move past it. BetterHelp is a great way to connect with a professional counselor in a safe and private online environment, so it's convenient, confidential, and affordable. And their licensed counselors specialize in everything from grief to self-esteem to family conflicts and much more. Plus, you can communicate with them in whatever way works best for you: text, chat, phone, and video, all from the comfort of your own home. If you've ever worried about the cost of traditional offline counseling, BetterHelp is more affordable and financial aid is available. In fact, as a listener, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting betterhelp.com/newsworthy. I want you to start living a happier life today. So join more than 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health. Go to BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, betterhelp.com/newsworthy.
It's almost the July 4th holiday weekend, and it's going to be an especially busy one for travelers in both the skies and on the roads. Most of them are going to be driving, though. AAA says more than 43 million Americans are planning a road trip, which is a new record for the July 4th holiday. It says some of the worst traffic is expected in places like Atlanta, Boston, Detroit, Los Angeles, and Seattle. Airports will be busy too, though. More than 3 million Americans are planning to fly sometime this weekend. The most popular vacation destinations for air travelers this weekend include Las Vegas, Denver, and Orlando. College athletes are already starting to look into ways they can profit from their fame, now that the NCAA reversed a long-standing rule that said they couldn't. In fact, Florida State quarterback Mackenzie Milton and Miami quarterback D'Eriq King are creating a new business to help other athletes line up public appearances. King also signed a $20,000 deal to promote the moving company College Hunks. He's not alone either. Others have signed endorsement deals for wireless phone carriers, nutrition companies, clothing lines, and more. Analysts say college athletes can expect to earn anywhere between $500 to $2 million, depending on what sport they play and how popular they are. Olympic organizers are making it a little easier for new moms to compete at the Tokyo Games. Thanks to a recent rule change, athletes who are breastfeeding will now be able to bring their kids and a caretaker to the Olympics. Originally, Olympic organizers had banned all family members from attending the Summer Games because of COVID-19 protocols. However, several Olympians like U.S. soccer star Alex Morgan and Canadian basketball player Kim Gaucher voiced their frustrations with that policy. They said they felt they were being forced to choose between their roles as new mothers and competing in the games. So, organizers reversed the rules. The athletes and their children will have to stay in hotels, though, rather than the Olympic Village. The Olympics begin in 3 weeks. TikTok videos are about to get longer. The video sharing app says users will soon be able to share videos up to 3 minutes long. Right now, the limit is just 1 minute. TikTok has been testing the longer videos with a small number of creators already, but the company says all of its users will see the change on their apps within the next few weeks. As TechCrunch reports, this change could make TikTok an even greater rival against YouTube. TikTok is said to have more than 1 billion active users each month from all around the world. YouTube has about twice that many. It seems flying cars are one step closer to becoming a reality. This week, an inventor in Slovakia completed his first flight between two cities in what he calls the air car. Stefan Klein has been working on the flying car for more than 30 years. But this week's test flight was the first time he's flown from one city to another. The air car has a BMW engine and runs on regular gasoline. Klein says the air car has a cruising speed of more than 100 miles per hour in the air. It can apparently travel for up to 600 miles at about 8,200 feet above ground. But his invention still has a long way to go, since the vehicle can't just lift up into the air. For now, it still needs a runway to take off and land. That's it for the main news today, but now it's time for Feel Good Friday, where we bring you one extra feel-good or positive news story before the weekend. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our sponsor, Noom. Here's Erica again with more.
Maybe you want to have more energy, enjoy exercising again, feel more confident or comfortable in a crowd, or simply feel good about your daily choices. Over time and through different life stages, our bodies and our habits can change, and so do our health goals. So whatever you need right now, I suggest you ditch the fad diets, the misconceptions, and the confusing, contradictory information you can find online, and check out Noom. It can help you get smart about food and make healthier daily choices. Noom's cognitive behavioral approach is not just about losing weight. It's about building the habits needed to keep it off. And it's convenient along the way, working with your lifestyle. Noom knows everyone is busy, and that's why Noom does not demand much of your time. They only ask for 10 minutes a day. There's a science to getting healthier, and it's called Noom. Sign up for your trial today at Noom, Noom.com/newsworthy. If you're ready to learn how to live healthier, sign up for your trial today at Noom, Noom.com/newsworthy. That's Noom.com/newsworthy.
Okay, now back to Feel Good Friday. This week, a lifelong baseball fan got to live out a dream that's been 60 years in the making. It was 1961 when Gwen McLaughlin was just 10 years old. She wanted nothing more to be a bat girl for the New York Yankees. She wrote a letter to the team's general manager asking him to let her do her dream job. However, he wrote back saying no. The letter said a young lady would feel out of place in the dugout with the players. McLaughlin kept that rejection letter for 60 years. She even had it on display in her living room because even though it wasn't the answer she hoped for, it was still an official letter from her favorite team. Well, earlier this year, her daughter took a picture of the letter and emailed it to the Yankees. Once the current general manager saw it, he invited McLaughlin to live out her dream during this week's game against the LA Angels. He sent a new letter saying, quote, "A woman belongs everywhere a man does, including the dugout." So, earlier this week, McLaughlin suited up in her Yankee gear and finally stepped onto the diamond as the team's Batgirl. She told reporters it was a thrill of a lifetime, and she thanked the organization for sending such a positive message to all girls and women. Thank you for listening. Just a quick note, the Newsworthy team is taking Monday off to celebrate the 4th of July holiday, but you can still expect our special edition Saturday episode coming out tomorrow. We'll be back with our next weekday news roundup on Tuesday. Until then, have a great day and a happy 4th of July.